Hello, everybody, and welcome to our kickoff sessions for the CPF, the Certificate in Python for Finance, as well as the Artificial Quant, TAQ. My name is Yves. I'm founder of the Python Quants, as well as the director of the two programs. Uh, some of you might know I'm always pretty excited to get started with a new cohort, in particular these days when we are in the age of AI in finance, for finance, all around finance, right? So there's so many interesting topics that come up, that show up on a weekly basis. It's pretty hard to keep up, but we will do our best also in these times, not only to cover the basics in the program, but also to take a look at what is new, what is maybe brand new, what has been established recently. So today's session has as a primary purpose to give an overview and introduction into the programs, the content, what to expect, why to study, what we study, and to get you kicked off, as they say, right, and provide a productive start into our formal program, starting with our May cohort today. The agenda here, you see, I want to start with a brief overview of the programs, then a couple of words about myself, mostly related to my books. Then I have here a special chapter where I want to argue that coding skills still matter, right? You could come up with the idea to say, well, in these days when we have like LLMs, chatbots, AI is available, like Claude of Anthropic or ChatGPT from OpenAI, why should I even bother learning to code? But I think it matters even more these days than before. So this is what I want to touch upon there. I will then show you two core classes in the programs: Finance with Python, which lays the foundations in finance, and Python, I must say, as well as AI in finance, as more like an encompassing overview of what we have in this regard. A couple of words and slides about the Quant Platform, which is your central repository for all the resources of the programs. A few words about the study plans, as well as guiding principles, additional resources in the form of books and docs I want to cover, quizzes and exercises, and then how you can find help basically 24/7 in the user forum, as well as on our Discord server. And last but not least, I know this is something that many are interested in from the beginning, about the final project, which is the major milestone in order to obtain the certificate. So with regard to the programs, we have grown the program, the CPF, of which the TAQ is a subset. You can think of the TAQ as level 1 with a focus of AI in finance, and CPF, which encompasses then also all the core classes in computational finance, in asset management, as well as in algorithmic trading. And you see there are quite a few elements that are contained in the CPF. Recently, I got an email from a current delegate who said, well, when I had a look at all the resources, now that I got started studying, this is more like a master's program and not like a quote unquote plain vanilla certificate that you find around the web. And indeed, we have grown the resources so that this comparison is really justified with a master's program, right? Here you see what you can obtain once you have finished successfully the final project, and of course the program itself. Here an overview of the classes, where you see different colorings. The darker blue ones are those that come on top of the TAQ. I said it's like a level 1, level 2. That way you can think of it, right? So in all instances, I would say you should cover the very basics. And with regard to the very basics, which you find here under foundations, they are PFF key skills, data science basics, NLP. These are topics that simply need to be mastered these days in order to keep up with what is going on in our domain, right? But there, of course, are other additional topics that might be important in one or the other use case, application scenarios, right? For example, crypto, or if you want to dig deeper with regard to Linux, and administration of servers, not really like the sysadmin part, but setting up servers and working on servers, for example, right? Then we have, of course, the core topics in the CPF, like Python for asset management or algorithmic trading, which is since the beginning a pretty strong focus. And many people these days still come to us in order to master Python for algorithmic trading, where we cover things from the first idea to the deployment in the cloud, automation, monitoring, logging, and all these technical topics around, right? It is pretty straightforward these days, and you find a ton of resources on the web with regard to, yeah, formulating a strategy, backtesting it either with your own code or with a package that is around. But the deployment, which is generally speaking the harder part, right? This is seldom covered. We have a strong focus here on the deployment part in a technical sense as well. So everything here, like our tools and skills class, which is not even listed here, shows you how to set up Docker containers, how to set up cloud servers, here the Linux basics, so that you can, once you combine all these elements together, then also do proper deployment of your strategies in the cloud. Of course, and this is my personal background. I did my PhD in mathematical finance. We have our computational finance class, where we not only cover, let's say, the theory and the implementation, but also our own package for derivatives analytics, which is called DX, and quite a bit more. So you see, it's quite a bit. And don't be afraid. You don't need to cover everything in order to obtain the certificate. We have many people who focus on one core class only, and some say, for example, I focus on the one stream, for example, in this cohort, and then I repeat with the next cohort. These are all options that you have, and no need to cover everything on the first go. You can always revisit. You have indefinite access to your resources. There is no need, again, to be afraid to rush or to work like 60 hours per week, which you could easily do on the topics. But of course, most of you have other obligations in the form of your professional career, maybe also family or some other obligations, requirements that you need to take into account. That's a given. Therefore, we provide, in principle, all the flexibility that you need, indefinite access, and you can always study in a self-paced manner at your own pace. But of course, this also means that you can always join the live sessions, not only in this cohort, but also in the next one. So I hope it is clear that we provide you with flexibility that you might need in order to accomplish your personal goals. Here, just for you as a reference, what other people have said in the past. Of course, I'm always happy to get positive feedback. But of course, if you see something in the program where you say, for example, this could be done better, or would expect this topic, or just recently I got a message where somebody said, well, why do you do the live sessions over the course of the week? This is how we have been doing it for all the years so far, and nobody, quote unquote, ever complained. So I don't see this as a complaint. I see this as a suggestion to namely say, well, why don't you do the live sessions on the weekend, where we don't need to work and might join all the live sessions. So I'm open to this. I could do live sessions also on the weekend. But once again, in the past, there haven't been any requirements in this regard. So I stuck basically to our weekday schedule. But here, the message to you, to all of you now following along, let me know if you would prefer, for example, to have the live sessions on the weekend instead of during weekdays where most of you might be working. But of course, we also need to take into account that we have people from around the globe following us, meaning from Asian time zones, European time zones, and US time zones. So this doesn't make it easier for sure, but maybe we find a solution that is, in that sense, optimized, right? I'm open to that. So if you want to get a first glimpse at Python for Finance, like a quick run through we have, and this is available for free, open on the YouTube platform in our channel. our recent Python for Finance online bootcamp. So if you say, well, I want to get like a quick start, and this is what I recommend often in the very beginning, like a pretty short, concise, focused, you can go there, dive into it, and then later on, go back to all the resources that I have here. But you see it listed here in the upper left-hand corner, the very first thing, the Python for Finance bootcamp. Of course, you find it not only on YouTube, but also on the Quant server, the Quant platform, I must say, that you know what I mean. But for those of you who might not be formal official delegates, this might be a good starting point as well. So with regard to myself, just my books, many people around the world, and I'm of course glad and happy about that, know me for my book Python for Finance. Many also know me for Python for algorithmic trading, and maybe some of the other books, right? And of course, all of these books are A, covered in the form of live sessions in the program, and B, they are also available for the delegates in PDF in online form. So just recently, and I could say for the 20th anniversary of the Python Quants, which was last year December, and this book was published in October, I published my 7th book, Reinforcement Learning for Finance. So you see, over time, things specialize, not only what we do, what we offer, but in the industry as well, right? So AI is not only, since chatbots came around the corner, a topic in the financial domain. This used to be for quite a while. So when you have a look here at AI in finance, the book that I published 2021, of course, we started doing that stuff quite a few years earlier. Even Python for Finance here, starting in 2014, first edition, but in particular in 2018, when the second edition came out, there are already machine learning elements in there. So starting slowly, but now, for us in the program, what we teach almost 10 years later, AI is now omnipresent in our domain. And of course, again, the topics are getting more and more specialized. And for me, this much more exciting and this on a faster pace. So I feel like riding on the famous exponential curve. When we have a look at the past, right, finance was more or less kind of like a quote unquote stable discipline with well-established theories and numerical methods applied. This has changed, and change is something I appreciate, I like to have. So I hope you see it in the same way. This is for you as reference, a few words more about my personal background. So now to one of my core topics today. This is like my motivational speech to hopefully even better motivate for you for the next weeks that lie ahead of us, which might be also sometimes a bit demanding, to find the time when you are tired in the evening or get up early in the morning to study the material, to improve your skills in coding, etc. Right? So the question is, why skills still matter in the age of AI, right? So when you think of craftsmanship, right, there are many crafts where you still need human beings that use their tools in order to accomplish something. So robots are not as far, that will be part of my argument, as the LLMs are these days in our domain. So I not necessarily want to say blue collar workers, white collar workers, but those people who primarily work with their head, with their brain, their mind, and the fingers when typing stuff. I think here we have now a special situation achieved, right? So, but key reasons for Python. Since you're following along, I would guess that you are already convinced that Python is something A, important in quantitative finance, and B, important for you to master in the financial domain, because this is omnipresent. It is used all around the corner. In every subdomain, every field, every function, every department, every whatever, right? And we have, of course, a number of good reasons why this is the case. So I'm preaching this since almost 20 years. These days, there is no preaching required anymore. Is more or less that you say, well, that's simply a given. Python is one of the key programming languages, if not the key programming language and ecosystem and technology platform in the financial industry, be it in algo trading, financial engineering, data science, whatever, wherever you look, Python is there. But we have, of course, these days not only Python, right? There are LLMs, and I use this now a little bit flexibly in the sense of chatbots, or we might have APIs via which we access the capabilities of LLMs. We have it from OpenAI, we have it from Google in the form of Gemini, we have Claude, let's say, from Anthropic, and of course there are a few more. I could have listed here, since this was in the news so prominently recently, also DeepSeek. I just wanted to go with the three I think that have most users and get, let's say, the highest coverage on YouTube, for example, at least from my personal point of view. So we have all of this, and I would say this is wonderful. This is really wonderful, and I'm not in the camp who says, well, this will replace our group of brain workers, right? Anytime soon. They are still in demand and in high demand, in particular those who know not only a bit of finance and a bit of coding, but who master also the new tools that are around the corner and are prominently used by many already in the industry. So what is the argument here? And with the help of ChatGPT, and I will say that we use it these days, basically in all the different areas of the CPF, TAQ, right? As well, of course, right? Here is a paper that was written based on guidance by myself, but of course formulated and technically, quote unquote, performed by ChatGPT, right? And the major argument here is skill amplification with a skill replacement, right? The key thesis of this paper is that AI coding assistants amplify the productivity gap between experts and non-experts rather than leveling it. So you could have the one perspective that is, well, given that we have all these AI assistants, generally speaking, like the LLMs, chatbots, APIs, etc., or the co-pilots, to name another group of these AIs, right, available, the skills gap between non-experts and experts will close, because the AI simply knows so quote unquote perfectly well how to code. So no need to master C++ and Python and Linux and cloud and Docker anymore. The AI will manage it, right? But the argument here is, and that's my absolute conviction, that the AI assistants will amplify the productivity gap, right? In an optimistic scenario, one might imagine that AI enables anyone, even with minimal programming knowledge, to perform like an expert quant. And if you have a look at all the YouTube videos, right, there are people showing, you sit down, you type in here, this is my super duper app, and please implement it with HTML, CSS, and some JavaScript. And 5 minutes later, or maybe 10 minutes later, you get like your super duper app, which will make you $1 million recurring revenue within 6 months, right? This all looks pretty nice, but I think it's not exactly that way, in particular in finance, right? So just describe the idea in English and let the AI produce a professional grade trading bot or risk model implementation. However, the reality is much more complex. AI tools do not eliminate the advantages of experience and skills. If anything, they enhance those advantages, right? And here is, I would say, a pretty typical typification also of all the delegates we typically have and that we have had in the past that came to us studying CPF or more recently TAQ. The first group here, non-domain tech experts. I don't recall how many there have been, but people approaching me in the following manner. If I'm a data scientist working in industry X, Y, Z, I'm interested in quantitative finance, A, maybe from a personal point of view, I want to trade, or B, from a professional point of view, in a sense of I want to change the industry. I want to get a new job, and I heard that finance pays pretty well. And they said, well, I want to leverage my data science, my programming expertise, and learn finance so that I can enter that domain, either again personally or in a professional capacity. Then the other way around, like people coming to us and say, well, for example, I'm a day trader. I have a couple of strategies that work quite well. And now I want to learn coding in order to automate what I'm doing on a discretionary personal basis, sitting in front of the trading screen all day long, right? Or people from other disciplines in the financial industry simply saying, well, I've been working with Excel over the years, and Python is now omnipresent, and I've seen so many interesting applications that I want to master that language as well and make my life easier or become more productive, or want to move on towards a more responsible position or whatever, right? These are really two typical profiles for delegates that we've had in the past. Then we had traditional quants as well, people working already as asset managers, let's say, using Python a little bit and say, well, I want to get into algorithmic trading, right? Or more on the pricing risk management side, and here and there, right? Simply upskilling in that sense. But what we now have, and this is now putting it all together, right? The domain expertise plus the coding expertise, which is a requirement since years for all the quant roles in the industry, right? That we have now the AI world, which comes on top of it, right? And this will create, or has created already, what is here called the super quants, right? Those who combine deep financial knowledge, excellent coding abilities in Python, maybe also other languages, right? But this is even rarer, right? To say, well, I know JavaScript, I know Python, I know C++, C#, and Java as well, right? This is really, really rare, right? But there are people like these out there. So these individuals who know all of this, when they now get the AI tools within their IDEs as co-pilots, or in the form of APIs accessing the LLM capabilities, let's say, of the recent model by OpenAI, O4 Mini High, which is so good at coding, etc., right? They become super quants. So they will be extremely productive. So a single super quant armed with AI, that's here the hypothesis, could possibly do the work that used to require several supporting junior analysts, at least when it comes to prototyping and analysis. And this, when you think it through, this is not only true for our industry. The same argument, the same reasoning applies to other disciplines as well. And you can read already in the newspapers about lawyers, right? In the past, there might have been one partner with 5 associates in certain companies, certain law firms, right? These days, there is maybe just one partner with 2 associates, because they can leverage the technology that is available. Because law, like our discipline, more or less is based on data, information, and the spoken written word, and in our case it might be code, right? But in law, I think the analogy is also clear, right, in that context. So in that sense, right, we have here these groups. The one side where you simply say we need to have additional exposure, additional training to become an all-around, let's say, traditional quant. And those who are already traditional quants, they can leverage their combined expertise these days even further to become a super quant, right? So this is the amplification here of competitive advantages. If you are more like me, right, and you want to have it visually, here you see the skills gap widening, right? Time experience here over time, right, with experience. The amplification here is with regard to the novice, the non-expert using AI, and the expert using AI, right? This is simply a steeper curve. This is simply a higher factor, right? In that particular context over time. And behind that screenshot here, that Python generated graph, all right, is also a little paper. Again, AI generated with the guidance by me personally, right? And not everybody is visually inclined, right? There are some people who are more related to stories, who can relate better to stories. When I click here, and this is here true for a couple of the slides, open link in new tab. So right click, open link. There is a little, I could say fairy tale or fictional narrative, which gives more flesh to the bones with regard to what this might mean here. It's just a two-pager, right, with a fictional story, but I think this pins it down pretty well with a lot of detail, but again, here as a narrative and not as a visual representation. So choose for yourself. Are you more visually inclined, or do you prefer reading or hearing or listening to a story? You have the options here. Just do a right click and open the link that is behind this screenshot. So in conclusion, the advent of LLMs and AI assistants marks a new era in quantitative finance. This is what I said from the beginning, or in the beginning and multiple times thereafterward, right? We are now in the AI-driven and dominated era in finance, right? These tools can write code, they can write text, of course, they can interpret data, they generate new ideas to some extent, right? This is also what you see quite often when people test LLMs, that they say, well, what are the most important unsolved problems of humanity or whatever, right? In the same manner, you can say, well, what are strategies, algo strategies, let's say in financial markets that nobody else is following currently, or something similar, right? But the core message is coding skills still matter perhaps more than ever in the age of AI. Rather than rendering programming ability obsolete, AI has made such skills the key to unlocking its full potential, right? So that's really not what the AI has written. That's my absolute conviction. And I see this over and over again, that the better you are, the better you can leverage. But this holds true with regard to any discipline. I would say if you get a faster, let's say Apple MacBook, I'm an Apple guy, then I think those who are the better coders will benefit from this faster MacBook more than, let's say, the novice programmer and so forth. Every craftsman with a new tool will be better as an expert than a novice in leveraging new tools. I think this is not something that here is out of the blue. This is something you can observe so many other disciplines, but for finance, I think it holds true in particular. So becoming a super quant should be your motivation for the next weeks here in the CPF and TAQ programs, right? You will acquire a lot of domain knowledge with regard to theory and markets. I could also say like data and APIs, however you want to represent the domain. But of course, theory is something you need as background, and markets encompasses then everything that is out there in the real world. And we have in finance the luxury that we don't need a big plant or a big machine or whatever. We just need our notebook, let's say, and access to the internet, and we are already in our world and can access and can connect to data APIs or even trade in real time pretty easily and cheaply, right? Coding, of course, must come on top. So Python, Linux, and the cloud are topics that we cover in detail. And last but not least, here the AI, which comes on top in order to really become a super quant, right? Machine learning, NLP, LLMs. We have a recently added NLP class where we, among others, explain how LLMs work and cover LLMs. So this has become also an integral part of our program. So becoming a super quant hopefully is motivation enough for you. So with regard to the program itself, when you find on the study plan, for example, finance with Python at the very beginning, so you have different resources in this regard. The first is the book itself, right? The book itself. The book here is not called Finance with Python. Back in the days, the publisher or writer said, well, let's go with financial theory with Python. So, but it's the same. In that sense, a gentle introduction, you have access to the PDF book. Then you have here the class itself with the recordings, the videos, so to say, with additional links, and also the Jupyter notebooks, which you can then open and execute on the Quant platform. So this is a typical structure which does not hold true for all the classes, because sometimes I get asked that question. I haven't written a book for every class that is there. So this would be, I don't know, this would require a total of 25 books or whatnot, right? So in that sense, a typical structure, but not the only structure. Sometimes we have other resources. And I must say, not all the time you will find a book related to a different class. So let me check for a question. So there is a question with regard to the schedule, and I come to that later on because I have a point here on the agenda with regard to the study plans. Then we can discuss that particular question, which relates to the schedule, right? So I leave on my classes here when I now go to the Quant platform, because this makes my life a little bit easier. The slides I can read, but not everything that is code related so well, let's say. So once you log into the Quant platform, you have here access to the, let's say, CPF TAQ part of the Quant platform. There are also free tiers for the Quant platform with different resources, free resources. But this is something that you should see when you are a delegate of one of the programs, right? So the latest videos are those which have been added, as the header suggests, most recently. And I've added here two of the recent podcasts that we can come up with. Here we also leverage AI in this context, but you see here a class, a live class, Data Science Basics, which is also a recent addition, and we will have more classes with regard to Data Science Basics. So if you want to follow along that class for these live sessions, you should have at least a cursory look at the previous sessions. So you just saw it. So once I do here a movement over the video, you see the Hoover effect here with the tooltip, as it's called technically. And for every single video, you will find AI generated. So you see, I'm using AI regularly. This has not only become integral in finance, but for everything that we do, we try to make the best out of the capabilities of modern AIs. And among others, this means that we transcribe every video that is on the platform and have transcribed in the past, right? And generate here summaries that show you not only a 7-word summary, right, but explain exactly what is in the video, what it can expect of it, right? Here, for example, in Data Science Basics 23, we introduce SQLite 3, relational database management system designed for efficient data storage and manipulation, right? Session begins with here. So this is kind of detailed, so you won't jump into cold water, as they say. You will know more or less exactly what is happening here, and if this is something you want to study right now, or if you move on to another topic, for example, right? Of course, we provide guidance with the study plans, but this does not mean that you have flexibility to choose your topic sessions, modules as well, right? So, but these are just the latest editions. So when we want to go to finance with Python, right, we might start with the books here, right? And when you go down here, see financial theory with Python. This opens, and they are all password protected for hopefully obvious reasons. And you have received the password with your personal welcome email. And once you open the book, then you see here the complete PDF of that particular book here. In that case, it is financial theory with Python. You have seen my 7 books and you have access to these 7 books, right? So that's your first source. You will also see reading recommendations in the study plan, right? So no need for us to go into details here, right? So that's the first part, the books here, finance. Now the classes part, finance with Python. Here I open that class, finance with Python 1, 2, 3, etc. Right? The same holds true when I hover over the video. You see the summary. Right? You see topics that are covered here. The video introduces basic concepts of pricing contingent claims, application, market completeness, and risk neutral pricing. So you see this is really here focused on fundamental basic concepts in finance, but illustrated obviously on the basis of Python code. And the same holds true for the mathematical elements, right? I can go through here and through. And so for the first week, there are the first 2 videos. So when you get started at the beginning, which I would recommend, right? These videos are really sequential. This holds true for most of the classes, but not for all of them, right? But here you would get started with the first one. You open the video, and this knows where I stopped recently. So let me, I hear myself talking now. Audio. So this was the last time. So when you close it and you get back to the video, it will jump to the position where you left it last time. So you can, of course, jump forward. And here you see the recording and you will hear me speaking throughout. Right. So that's one thing. And here it's running. I can stop it or pause it. And over here, you see there are also notes, and at minute 53:15, you see here I did a recent note. We are currently in the intro and overview session, and you can here put as many notes as you want, general notes, or you can add here a timestamp, right? So when you say, yeah, here exactly, this is what I wanted to check again, and you can click on it, it will jump here then to the very second actually where you have put in your notes. When I come to the Quant platform, I will explain also the search capabilities, and you can search your own notes as well, right? So if you say, well, this is a very interesting thing, and I put here 5 capital X's and add that note, right? Then I could, for example, on the in the search field, I could search for the 5 capital X's, for example, right? But this is just something that I sometimes do, right? When I want to jump quickly to a certain point, right? So you can delete it as well. So note taking, we hope, helps you a little bit here to follow along and to make notes for your later reference where you see fit in this regard. So this holds true for all the videos that we have on the platform. Then, of course, we have here slides, for example, or other resources, right, on which you can click and which I use, for example, in the videos so that you have access to them as well. And of course, Python for finance, right? We want to program. You get also here when I open the when I click once, so no need to do a double click. You can do it, it won't hurt, right? And this was, oh, I had this already open. Sorry for that. So I need to close it. Let me check because I tested something before and I might have. So this was a while back. So I might have been locked out in between. So now that I've opened Jupyter Lab once again, let me here click on the Jupyter Notebook. And you see, I can, for example, have multiple instances of the Quant platform open, right? I could, for example, here duplicate the tab, right? You see there's 1, 2 instances of the same platform. I can go to different areas, have open code, the user forum, whatever, right? I mean, this should be self-explaining with today's technology. Thank God we can implement these things, right? But I just want to highlight that you're not here restricted to a single instance, right? So since I have clicked on Finance with Python book, it opens here now in Jupyter Lab the notebook on which I have clicked, but you see here for that module, there is another one which I can open, right? This is the pretty much longer than the other one, right? The first Jupyter notebook is pretty simplistic and short. And here, once I have the second one open, in that case, right, I can now go and execute everything cell by cell, right, as it's supposed to be. You can do it here on the Quant Platform Jupyter Lab instance, and for many classes this is possible, but not for all of them. So for many you can do it on the Quant Platform directly, but for some classes you are simply expected or even required to execute stuff locally, or to put stuff in a Docker container locally, or to put something in, to execute something in the cloud, for example. But for the beginning classes here, the core ones at least, you should be able to execute it on the Quant platform, right? So this is that case. But you can also here right-click and do a download, and download it for local execution if you prefer to do so, or if you simply want to check whether your newly created Python environment executes the code. So one thing that I usually emphasize here at this stage is that when I, for example, change something, right? Let's say I change here the value to 15.75. I can execute this, right? It will show me the result, but for those carefully watching here, I cannot save this file. So here, file, have a look here. This is grayed out. This is grayed out. And this has a good reason. It has a technical reason. And for us, it also has an organizational reason, because we provide you with the original Jupyter notebooks and other resources in a read-only manner, so that you always have the original resources available. But this does not mean that you cannot save it, right? I have done the change right here. Let's say here I do something. This is my changed version of the notebook, right? So just to have one more change. And if you want to persist these changes, right, changes on the fly, no problem. But if you want to save them, right, what you need to do, and this is now important, you need to here go and save notebook as here. And now it is important to adjust this path, right? This is a pretty long path. This is all, this is the technical way how Jupyter Lab shows this. I'm not really happy with that. But this has nothing to do with our implementation. This is simply a Jupyter Notebook topic here, right? And I save it now without a path, right? I could, for example, put here a forward slash, and you see now it is saved. So we see it here, right? Saved, so, but it is not here in this folder anymore. I have saved it in the root folder. Here you see Finance with Python book. So this is now a version which I could further change, adjust, download, whatever. But really important, this is something that is not standard, quote unquote, but we provide you with read-only resources so that you always have the original versions, and we have full control over what you get. And if you want to persist your changes, you should go here to save notebook as. And now I can further change it and save the changes again and again, right? So that's I would say the only important technical point that you should recall. If you want to save something, go to Save Notebook As, and then choose the path appropriately. So usually maybe in the root folder, right? So now I can save it, I can or close it here, and we would be good to do some other work, some other stuff, right? Yeah, that's with regard to the class. So finance with Python, a typical class, introductory class, core class, right? With the three elements, you have the book, then you have the video, plus the resources. Let's say the main resources are the Jupyter notebooks. In general, you can open them and execute them in Jupyter Lab on the Quant platform, or you can download them and execute them locally once you have set up your own environment. Yeah, there's somebody. I'm every once in a while I check to my left-hand side questions or comments that pop up, and somebody was saying that my perspective is truly encouraging. When most often we hear that now ANI will replace software engineering. No, I don't think that's the case. There might be just fewer junior entry-level positions available. This might be a real drawback, right? When there is an expert coder who in the past might have 5 junior coders in the team. These days, there might be just 2 junior coders that are all supported by AI, right? But here, with regard to finance with Python, I don't think, maybe there is AI mentioned in the whole book, but that's not the topic. So here we are on the, let's say, traditional side. Speaking of the traditional side, coming now to the AI parts in the program, and you see we have but there are others which touch upon AI left and right, up and down, but core modules in our program with regard to AI and reinforcement learning in particular are 54. So it's quite a bit, right? We have the 2 books, we have the modules as I presented before, we have the code, of course. So this is really at the core, both at the core of TAQ, where the focus is indeed on AI and finance, and in the CPF, everything is included there as well, with the additional applications and algorithmic trading and the other areas like asset management and computational finance, not that much, I must say. But here, a ton of resources in this regard, and be assured once you have covered this and mastered this, and here is not even NLP, where we also use to a large degree also use machine learning and deep learning techniques, etc. And LLMs, and I don't know, there's so many topics these days, right? That here it's just that particular part, but be assured it is like a nerve system throughout the programs these days, right? Now the Quant platform, you have seen it in action already, right? You see the latest videos, you see the main navigation menu, you have seen like the tool tips when you hover over it, the code execution. The user forum is something that I haven't shown, but it is right when I go back. I must go back here to the dashboard. Did it go? Then let me click on user forum if it doesn't want to do what I intended here. So the latest forum posts, right? And you have down here the overview. You see here Quant Platform, certificate program, Python for algo trading. Traditionally, the most active topic here, 680 topics with 2,200 replies, right? So that's of course something that you can frequent 24/7, right? Where you should post, you are expected to post all content and technical question. So every once in a while, I still get emails with regard to, oh, even that Jupyter notebook, I cannot execute X, Y, Z. No, this is here for the user forum, and please follow the rules and post your problems, issues in a way that everybody else knows exactly what's going on, can have a look at the data you use and the code that you use, which does not work. So this is really important. Otherwise, yeah, to be frank, you cannot expect proper help, right? There are some rules, and you are supposed to even click when you open a new when you open a new topic here, a new post, that you follow the rules. So user forum and the books, right? I mentioned already full text search, and this is here in the, there is a search for the forum, like here as well, but on the dashboard. Now it follows my intention and opens the dashboard. Here you find also search, where you can not only search user form, where you can search the videos. And I said we use AI to transcribe all videos, meaning every single word I've ever spoken and all the hundreds of hours of instruction is transcribed and is searchable, right? When you see here the screenshot, right, when you look for TPQOA, and I've intentionally chosen this here for the example because it is not mentioned that often. You can imagine pandas or NumPy is mentioned so often that you get a pretty long list of results. But here, TPQOA is covered in the ATOB, that's the Algorithmic Trading Bootcamp, right? It is mentioned here 2 minutes, 3 times, right? And here in the other video, the second one, it is mentioned at this point in time, so you can click on it, and with the search results, you can jump to the very second where I use that word that you are looking for, or that particular expression. So for me, it's amazing, and I realized that, and this is, I think, a year back, that I've spoken more than 2 million words during the CPF instruction. So quite a bit. So here is like the search results shown with the example of pandas, what I mentioned, right? And you see in this particular one, mathematics basics 33. There is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is what I meant before, right? Pandas, of course, is omnipresent with what we do in Python for finance. Therefore, you will find for this generic search word, this is like when you use Google, right? You will find a ton of hits. We have also the chatbot, which is fine-tuned on the certificate program resources. So meaning it is like ChatGPT, and we use OpenAI APIs in the backend, but we have trained it on our proprietary data as well. So just to make the point, and I use my class, I cannot really zoom in here. I hope you can read it, right? So we have a different ordering. So we have the question, then comes the answer on top, then the next question, the answer on top. So you will always see the last either question or answer at the very top and not at the bottom. We somehow thought this might be a bit more innovative than the other way around. So you will always have here the latest answer, and then you can type your next question. But the point that I want to make here, right, is you can ask general questions. So what does the cufflinks package do? And the cufflinks package is a visualization package for interactive visualizations with pandas using Plotly and D3GS in the backend. And I like it due to the package, and I also like it because a good friend of mine, Jorge Santos, is the author and maintainer of that package. He has also a finance background. He's a finance executive, right, these days on the West Coast in the US, previously in London. So here you get the answer, which is a general question, and I get a general answer, right? So it simplifies the process of creating visually appealing and informative charts, allowing users to perform technical analysis and add features. So this has nothing to do with the certificate program. But then here I ask the next question: which modules of the CPF program covered the cufflinks package? Of course, this is now proprietary information, and the assistant here, how we call it, gives you the answer. So the cufflinks page is primarily covered in the modules related to data visualization within the CPF program. Makes sense. It's a data visualization package, right? Specifically, and that's true, hopefully everything is true and it doesn't hallucinate, in the financial packages and data science basics classes. For example, in data science basics, 15B IBYMB and 07 fin packages, blah, 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 right? So that's what we would like to offer you, something where you can ask general question plus something where you can ask specific questions related to CPF and TAQ content, which ChatGPT couldn't answer you because this is our proprietary content. Now, with regard to the question that was asked before. So here you see the, I must say, the classical study plan for the CPF. And we have, slimmed it down quite a bit, because in the past we were saying, well, it's quite a bit of a workload. Do we really need to do this all? And I have trimmed it down in the sense that I have here the core part. This is in the beginning for asset management, algo trading, computational finance, all the same. You recall finance with Python, right? And then the PFF key skills and Linux basics. This is what we these days recommend instead of other classes that we had before. And these are rather recent additions as well, so reflect also recent updates and other stuff. Then we have tools and skills, which is really important no matter what you do, right? Setting up Python environments, Docker usage, Jupyter, cloud usage, Jupyter, additional tools like IPython, the Vim code editor, and Doctest, Unitest, all these software development related topics that are so important no matter what you will do, right? Therefore, tools and skills, something you should do as well. AI in finance, at least you should do the book version here. And then I have listed some other things. There is even more, but I've listed math basics, PFF basics, crypto basics, and RF for finance, if you want to add more on the first go. In the last column, you just see as a reminder here, kickoff sessions, May 5th and 6th here, and Q&A on Discord, May 9th. So dark gray showing the current week. Week number 1 is where we are in right now, having our first kickoff session. So next week, I think self-explanatory, same idea from week 4. And you can think of the 12 weeks in terms of like 4 different parts, right? And after every 3 weeks, we have a major milestone, right? Here's the first major milestone. Then we get into the second 3 here. And from that point on, you see here the differentiation in the 3 core classes. I would recommend what you do, it's up to you. You can do all the 3 of them, but I would recommend to focus on 1 core class at the first go, right? If you say, I'm an asset manager, I want to get started with asset management, that's fine. I'm a data scientist, I want to do, personally, I want to do algorithmic trading, go with algo trading, that's fine, and so forth. So you don't need to have to do all the 3 of them. You can, but you don't have to. You can do, let's say, another stream later if you then want to do so, right? So that's about the basics. And for sure, we won't have, for every single class that you see here, live sessions, right? You have all the resources here, in particular those that you see here, apart from not even data science basics is listed here. Basically, everything that you see here is pre-recorded, and you can study everything here in a self-paced manner. We add classes and sessions, etc., do updates as we go, with like 2 to 3 live sessions per week, right? Like now we have the kickoff session live. Next week we will have other sessions, let's say for data science basics or NLP, let's just say, right? And you can follow along the live sessions. You don't have to, but we couldn't possibly do live sessions for all the classes. Therefore, we have the majority of the resources in a pre-recorded fashion so that you can study in a self-paced manner. Everybody can do so, right? And we add as we go more and more recent topics, updated topics, current topics, new classes, etc. to the program via live sessions that are, of course, shortly after they have been recorded, available as recordings on the platform. So here you see it for the TAQ program. This is structured a little bit differently. The beginning is more or less the same, finance with Python. Of course, here the focus lies on AI and RL plus NLP, right? Here NLP explicitly mentioned. PFF key skills, and then the key skills, right? So, but the idea, everything that I explained before, is more or less the same. And what I haven't mentioned before, I should do so, is here the first here, so I cannot mark them, is of course a screenshot. Finance with Python, this relates to the modules in that class, but financial theory with Python chapters, so this indicates which chapters you should read, could read. I would say you don't necessarily have to. Some people prefer to first read the text, then watch the recordings and go through the code. Other people say, well, I first want to watch the recording, go through the code, and then read the explanations and the details in the text. So it's up to you. Everybody is individualistic, I guess, and everybody has their own established learning style. So feel free to implement yours here. You have all the flexibility that you need. So you see here also finance with Python plus the chapters, AI and finance plus the chapters, RL and finance plus the chapters, and it should be self-explanatory which books belongs to which class here. So coming to important guiding principles. I don't know why this is the case. At least I hope that in our marketing communication, every other communication that I'm responsible for, we do not pretend to be indeed like a university master's program. I said before, I'm happy to hear that people feel that way, that we have something like a master's program, but I would say our program is much, much more on the practical side than a typical master's in applied financial coding program. I'm just making up things. You know this, right? And what I wanted to emphasize is that often people say, do you cover in detail all these asset management theories or all these option pricing techniques, etc., or this? So with regard to theory, I would say we cover a ton of theory and you have access to all the books and to more, right? But we are not, with regard to the approach, directly comparable to a university master's program where theory usually is what's driving everything and you do a little bit of coding on the side, right? For us, it is, and here you see the principles, it is Python first. So we emphasize, of course, the coding and the implementation. We provide you with resources where you can look up, let's say in computational finance, in my book, Derivatives Analytics with Python, or in listed volatility and variance derivatives, you find a ton of detailed theoretical background. For most of you, I'm pretty sure from experience, that is too much detail, right? Even if you want to go through the coding side of things there, right? So hundreds of pages of theoretical background, right? In other areas, it's not that detailed. Let's say in asset management, where I haven't written a book about, there's not that much detailed theory available, but I reference papers and other books in that context, right? We emphasize the coding. It's Python for finance, and that holds true also for the TAQ. It's Python for finance. These days, I prefer Python and AI for finance. Then it is very specific. So again, difference to a typical university course is in the beginning, you first get shown the whole world from left to right, what is all there, what has been in the past, right? And then you dive down into different areas, topics, subdomains, etc. We focus, for the sake of illustration, on specific things to enlighten you, to illustrate, to illuminate, not to give you a historical overview of everything, or to give you a whole overview of the world, right? So speaking in terms of geography, right? I'm German. I'm not saying Germany has the following, I don't know cities. I only know my state. We have 503 municipalities. And when I would speak of my German state where I live in, it's called the Saarland, I would say, well, there are major cities. They are called Saarbrücken, Saarlouis, and let's say Neunkirchen, for example. And this is our approach, right? We might have 500 options, and I'm not even trying to give you the overview of all the options. I would say, well, this is an interesting topic, that's an interesting, and that's an interesting. So just to set the frame and to quote unquote manage your expectations. Reproducible. So we use static data sets. In the past, I have paid my dues here with sweat and tears, right? We used APIs all over the place, right? Then the APIs changed. People said, well, the code doesn't work anymore here and there. And this holds true for the books that I've published as well as for all our teachings, right? Therefore, I use whenever it makes sense, and it's the best option. We use static data sets so that you can reproduce, let's say, all the charts, numbers, whatever calculations that are there. So we have, of course, an algorithmic trading parts where we go to the APIs, etc. I think there's no way around that. It's simply a necessity. It's even the core there. But overall, you will be presented with static data sets. You can download them, and you can then replicate everything. And last but not least, it is practical, to the point. You should prioritize skill acquisitions, and we prioritize skill acquisition. So it's not like going to the movies, enjoying the movie and getting out and say, well, I'm enlightened. I now know what this is all about, Python, coding, and a bit of finance and a bit of AI. You should do it. You should sit down. My typical examples are, if you want to learn to swim, there comes the day where you need to jump into the pool, right? If you want to drive a car, there comes the day where you might board the car and you drive the car in real world traffic. If you want to play the piano, you need to sit down and play the piano. You can listen to 100 YouTube videos about swimming, about driving a car, about playing the piano. You will never learn it if you don't do it yourself. And the same holds true here for our program. Don't follow along just the videos one after the other and check. No. If you only have time to go through one video thoroughly and practice the code and memorize the code and adjust the code that is presented in the video, then do it just with one video and skip the others. Don't try to just check stuff that is on the study plan. Try to internalize what you study, acquire the skills, make everything your own. So in order to support you, I have shown you already there are the books that you can access, that you can read in the browser, that you can download and read on the iPad, for example. This is the one major source. So starting with this cohort, I'm going to add, again, AI assisted, AI supported. I'm going to add, and I have had it already, it's already available on the Quant platform, a number of much shorter, concise, and targeted documentations for different topics, which I consider important, which you should master independent of asset management, of algo trading, of NLP, of whatever, of AI, right? This is really what I want to add this time around, because I consider this so important, and I hope that this makes your life much easier. So currently you find all of this under practice, and I come to this in the next part. So under quizzes, maybe we will create a new segment here on the platform for it. You see under concise docs, you see here a longer list already of different PDFs, and here comprehensive docs. So this is my thinking, that I go with pretty short ones, documents, really concise, covering stuff on a, I wouldn't say superficial level, but in the most concise manner. And then the more comprehensive ones here about the very important topics, such as NumPy and pandas, right? So when I go here, let's say a pandas time series, this should open now in Jupyter Lab. You see in the back end, it has opened. Pandas time series basics. So why time series in pandas? Setup, generating, right? You see this has 5 pages. So why time series? Brief introduction, generating date ranges, and so forth, right? Datetime index, resampling, upsampling, rolling windows, shifting, time zone, reading, finish, right? So I would say pretty concise, but if you say, well, I want to use pandas now, or starting from today, I want to get proficient with time series handling in pandas, this might be then a good starting point, right? Pretty concise. You don't need to read through one of my hundreds of pages long books and search for the very information. Here by the topic, you can immediately tell, right, what this is about. So the when I go back here, I don't need to go with the other one here. I can navigate here. Let's say now pandas comprehensive, pandas tutorial series and data frame objects. You see here who has written it. I haven't written it. Be assured, every single word that you see in my 7 books has been written by myself. So basically, they have been written apart from my last book before ChatGPT was published in 2022. So this gives you kind of guarantee that I have written that stuff. So I have written quite a few thousand pages in my life, right? But here, this is given my guidance, created with the help of AI, and you see hopefully my excitement and my amazement still. And the page numbering here is different, right? We have like 25, and this gives you a much more deeper dive into what pandas series objects are, pandas data frame, essential functionalities like reindexing, dropping entries, etc. And here also time series data, right? Like resampling with a ton of examples. And for the comprehensive ones, I have also created here Jupyter Notebooks, pandas, Jupyter Notebook, and you see that's a pretty long one for that tutorial. And when I execute this now, you couldn't see what I've been doing. I have used a shortcut here for Jupyter Lab, and then it executes that code here on the Quant platform. So I hope that this further supports you in your learning, in your endeavors here, and that we provide these targeted documentations. Again, I cannot save it here, right? But no need, that's just like exactly the reference. So here, this is a pretty new addition. And I was driven here in this context by something that we have added also just recently. So you see, over the years, from cohort to cohort, we add new stuff and more stuff, right? But this was something that people have been asking me as well for, right? Like quizzes and exercises more on a granular level. We have the tutorials, the weekly tutorials, but these are really, let's say, comprehension exercises, like 10 yes and no questions about data structures, right? Differences between data structures, right? Are both list and tuple ordered collections of items, while set and dictionaries are not guaranteed to mentor. Is this true or false, right? So yes, no questions. Then the most classical, I would say, format, multiple choice questions, 15 multiple choice questions with regard to NumPy and the array objects and NumPy universal functions and so forth. Also for you, when what I was saying before, these are quizzes related to topics that I consider important, no matter what topic you study: NLP, AI, asset management, algo trading, you name it. Right? This is simply to master Python for finance, no matter what. Right? Or like exercises with regard to advanced control structure exercises, for example. Right? Use nested for loops to print a pyramid pattern. Using a while loop, find the least common multiple of two numbers. So if you're maybe on a Sunday afternoon, say I have 2 hours time left before family dinner, these might be good exercises, right? To review the week and to put your hands on the keyboard. Practical, you know, the fourth guiding principle, to put your hands on the keyboard and try to solve these shorter exercises, right? So the user forum is always there to help you out with regard to content questions, with regard to technical questions. Again, stick to the rules that you find whenever you open a new post. Then you are supposed to click on something in red, which says, yeah, I follow the rules, right? And you can also, like here, this is not really content related, nor it's a technical issue. Some people also start discussions here. So what algorithm can better attempt to solve the market prediction game? Or here, right, this is organizational, make hoard, how to start the program and complete in 3 months, and so forth, right? Basically, the topics in the user forum are not limited, but we won't answer technical questions by email, nor are technical questions for the Discord server. The Discord server, this is for everything organizational, right? Where you say, well, when is the next session? What is happening here? Or I recently read the following interesting article. What does everybody else in our current cohort think about it, right? And we will also do regular live sessions where we meet at a set time, and we can then discuss things from experience. I can just tell, usually even during the first live session, people ask, what is the final project all about, right? This is something that I usually would answer, don't worry about this 12 weeks from now, when we are in the first week. This is when you should get started thinking about the final project, right? So Discord server for everything else that you wouldn't put on the user forum, right? General questions, ideas, and you see here a couple of things. Q&As, general, here questions about the program, coding questions, finance questions or topics, hardware related stuff, final project questions, right? Delegates among each other, different resources that you might want to post, or career related topics. And every once in a while, we also have our boot camps and any other topics if you don't see fit in any of the other channels of the server, right? So final project, I'm not going into details here. I just mention it because I know you're all interested. What is expected? Here is the document. Here is the link to the document which details the expectations. But let me reiterate it again. Here we are at the very beginning. You should forget about the final project for the next 12 weeks. You should focus on skill acquisitions as good as possible, as much as possible, as your time allows, and only then afterward, and with the acquired skills and the experience gained, then you are in a good position to think about the final project. But much will happen, hopefully in a very positive sense, up until then. So here it's just a link for your reference, but yeah, don't worry about it. We'll come to that automatically. So for those of you who are not yet part of the program, who might have followed us along here, here are the links to the pages describing the programs and have like pricing information. But I have come to the end of what I wanted to present you with. I hope this simplifies and accelerates your start here in the CPF and TAQ program. I'm pretty excited. You see I'm so motivated to add new stuff, to have here and there new approaches implemented, to provide you with new resources, to cover all the recent fantastic tools that have come out. I have a number of ideas in this regard, right? So I wish you all the best, all the excitement, and a very steep learning curve, and many illuminating moments, and of course all the fun with the CPF and the TAQ. And yeah, I'll see you in the next session. Take care. Bye bye.